Hey guys, so a while back I posted a short asking for some Q&A questions, so that's what this video is. I won't be answering every question as some people left like a long list of questions, as well as because I wanted this to be a somewhat quick video. So thanks to everyone who submitted the questions, whether they got answered or not. Let's get into it. So I'm just letting y'all know I didn't word these exactly verbatim as they were commented, just because it wouldn't let me copy and paste them for some reason. But the post with the Q&A will be linked below, so go check that out. But just to get right into it, the first question that we have is from KittyKitty9701, and that is thoughts on microlabels, specifically gender ones. Regarding non-xenogender microlabels, I kind of stand by my position that labels are meant to communicate something about yourself or about a thing without it needing to be further explained. Like, if I say I'm bisexual, the vast majority of people don't go, "What is that?" They know what it means. So, to be honest, I don't think that microlabels really serve that purpose, considering they're often so niche that either only people who are both LGBT and, like, let's be honest, kind of chronically online, know what it means. And sometimes it's so niche that it only applies to yourself and maybe one or two other people who found it on a wiki you put it on or something. That being said, I don't think that there's anything inherently harmful about them. Things like pangender or gender fawn or whatever are still a genuine reflection of someone's experience with their gender. They're just not really effective communicators. They still explain the proximity to male, female, or neutral, but you shouldn't be expecting people to know what they mean or understand them right off the bat, and in my opinion, using a label like non-binary or just generally a more well-understood term alongside them can be pretty helpful. But ultimately, I do think it is both pointless and harmless. It's something that I don't really get, but I'm also not, like, upset by. Regarding xenogender microlabels, I have whole videos on that. Do not support them, do not have the time to get into it here. So the next question, and sorry if I butcher your username, is from Cuddleska, and that is best argument against the existence of God. I wouldn't necessarily argue that, like, God as a concept 100% does not exist. I'm an agnostic atheist regarding the general concept of a God, because there's basically no way to know, and you can't disprove a negative, especially with God just, again, as a concept being extremely vague and having no specific qualities beyond having created stuff, which could be us directly, it could be life in general, could be the Earth, the solar system, the galaxy cluster, universe, have started the Big Bang, have chosen the laws of physics, etc., you get the point. It's also possible that there could be aliens that we would perceive as gods. Something like, if you've seen the prequel to the Alien series, Prometheus, something like that. I don't think that that's very likely, but the concept is vague, basically. So, God as a general concept has no specific qualities that can be directly refuted. Most atheists who just call themselves atheists are still agnostic atheists, and that includes me for the most part. But the for the most part does mean that I think that there is a specific God that I know a lot more about, the Christian God, obviously, that can maybe not be disproven as a whole, but can be disproven to the extent where I think following the Bible is completely useless, or the basis of the religion that surrounds that God falls apart. So, the Christian God specifically, while not all Christians are young earth creationists, I think the ability to disprove Genesis, specifically the Garden of Eden, disproves both the God that young earth creationists believe in and the God of more normal Christians who still believe in evolution and such. I think any basically scientifically literate person, including the vast majority of Christians, can agree that the Garden of Eden was not a real literal place, nor did a real literal Adam and Eve exist, nor is the Earth 6,000 years old. The fossil record alone is enough evidence of that, as it's both basically impossible to pinpoint the first modern human because evolution is so gradual. There's no one person who became the first human, as well as just knowing life, including modern humans, existed for millions of years prior through, again, the fossil record. And this is not even to mention the issues with genetics that would arise in an Adam and Eve situation, or the blatantly unscientific excuses made for dinosaurs or other extinct animals by people like Kent Hovind. It is very easy to establish that the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve did not exist through scientific research. And if the Garden of Eden did not exist, even if you are a Christian who believes it was metaphorical, your whole religion falls apart. There was no original sin, and as such, no reason for Jesus to die for us. If you believe that the Garden of Eden is real, science in fields from geology, biology, evolutionary biology, and even to a degree astrophysics and chemistry disagree with you. If you don't believe that Genesis literally happened, then well, we're back at there was no original sin. That would mean that the God of the Bible is either not real or is so drastically different from how he's described in the Bible that the book essentially becomes null. The entire thing that Christianity is built around, the idea of Jesus dying for our sins, humanity being inherently flawed as a result of original sin, becomes non-existent and calls into question the rest of the religious beliefs around it. I don't think that this necessarily disproves the Christian God, but I do think that it is an argument against the Bible and less so an argument against God as a concept, or specifically the Christian God existing. But I fail to see any reason that a rational person would choose to believe it with that information in mind, other than indoctrination. The next two questions are from Elixium, and the first one is thoughts on less prominent political parties, specifically Libertarian, Green, and the Forward Party. Generally, I think libertarians as a party are unrealistic. It would be great if everyone could be left alone and have no control over our lives, and I do respect that that extends to beliefs of things like being pro-choice or being accepting of gay people, but many people would be unable to function without government assistance, as well as many infrastructures, and in a libertarian world, there would be much more rapid environmental destruction and corporate greed because there is nothing to keep it in check. I also personally support things like universal healthcare and UBI, much more robust disability, retirement, and low-income support, and I also support heavy environmental regulations and much more control over corporations on basically every level. I don't think that they should exist at all, but unfortunately they do, and as such need to be regulated. I'm just generally not a small government person. I'm a the government needs to be drastically restructured person. Regarding the Green Party, I generally would align myself loosely with them, and I have a lot more respect for them than any other group on this list, as well as any other political parties in America that are prominent enough to be worth voting for. I also appreciate that they don't accept corporate donations, and their strong environmental regulation support as well, and the fact that they are socially and economically left. I agree with them on the fact that I do not support state socialism, and I agree with their idea of more communal socialism, although I'm not 100% sure that they label it socialism, but it seems like they are generally on board with the workers own the means of production line of thought, which obviously I can agree with. As I said before, I support universal healthcare, which they do as well, so yay to that. This question is going to be really long, so I'm just going to kind of list the stuff I do and don't agree with on the Green Party here, because otherwise it's going to be its own video. I agree with private prison abolition, although I support full prison abolition or possibly such a drastic reform that it's comparable. I support abortion rights and their positions on free college and canceling student loan debt. Their positions on drug decriminalization, though I do think that all drugs should be legalized and regulated, not just decriminalized. I support reparations to Black Americans, but I would also add Indigenous communities as well. Their stances on gay marriage and trans healthcare are something I can agree with, and I support everything they have to say about military funding and regulation. I agree with them on cutting aid to Israel and supporting Palestine, and I support all of their positions on youth rights except for one that I will mention in a moment. I am not in support of abolishing private education, but I do support higher regulations on it, and the only support for basically attending private education would be for the attendance of private schools that help kids with disabilities, or for good residential treatment programs, or basically any kind of alternative schooling like Montessori-style schooling or whatever, but I do not support any form of religious education at all whatsoever. Regarding schooling, that is, not just learning about religion. I absolutely do not support lowering the voting age to 16. I think it is perfect where it is at 18. I do not support cutting aid to countries with anti-LGBT legislation, as in my opinion, that is only damaging to the LGBT citizens who live there, not necessarily to the governments themselves that can seek support elsewhere. Queer people live in every country all over the world, including those that wish to hurt them, and they don't deserve to be punished for their government's actions. Okay, that is it for the Green Party. Sorry that was long. Going to move on to the Forward Party. I did not know what this was until I googled it, so I'm sorry if anything I get here is wrong. I tried my best to understand what they're about, but it seemed like there was minimal information. But right off the bat, I am not a fan of centrism. I do agree with their positions on ranked choice and nonpartisan voting, and their attempts to redistrict and eradicate gerrymandering, and I do support that they support universal healthcare, which I've already mentioned like twice now. However, I don't think there's such thing as quote-unquote human-centered capitalism. Capitalism by nature favors profit over people, and despite agreeing with their voting reform positions, I can never even sort of begin to support a party that is pro-capitalism, let alone one that misunderstands it so thoroughly that it believes that it can be possible for it to be basically for the people. Personally believe that that is extremely misguided and putting their efforts in the wrong area. The next question from the same user is, in an increasingly divisive political system, is mutual agreement, civil discussion, and compromise a thing of the past? I don't believe civil discussion is, but everything else to a degree is, in my opinion. People cannot compromise with those who wish for their rights as humans to be removed, or even those who vote in their own self-interest on things like taxes, but see others' human rights as acceptable collateral damage for that, even if they don't agree with it personally. I don't think voting or asking nicely or compromising will work anymore, and I'm not saying, like, don't vote or don't sit down and discuss with people who disagree with you. Those things absolutely have benefits, but I don't think that they're by any means an actual solution. You can't ask your oppressor nicely to stop oppressing you. And the last question is from Painted Panther, and that is, what do you think the best age to transition is, 18 plus or as a teenager? So I'm going to give a longer answer after this, but my immediate response of, like, the TLDR of everything I'm about to say after this is, when you feel ready to. It's not anyone else's problem, it's between you and your doctor. But in terms of personal opinion, I think that someone who just came out but has known they were trans for the last 30 years versus someone who's 16 and has known they were trans for like 3 weeks before they came out but has been out for maybe a year or two, I'd say the person who just came out but is known for 30 years is a safer bet of making a correct choice for themselves than the person in the second category. But ultimately, again, not really my problem. And I do think that it's kind of just cruel to expect people to live as their birth gender whenever they know that they're trans. And we just need more educated doctors on trans healthcare, and less so to be regulating, like, how long you have to have been out or how long you have to have known or blah, 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 blah. Do you have dysphoria? Do you want to take HRT? Does your doctor say it's safe for you? All of those answers are yes, cool, take HRT. Same thing for top surgery, bottom surgery, whatever, you get the point. But ultimately, that's between you and your doctor, and I don't think that anyone else should be placing a judgment on that. Whether one thing is a safer bet or not a safer bet, it doesn't change the fact that both of those people are living in a state of discomfort to suffering, while not transitioned. So that's the last question for the video. I'm sorry there were more questions than this, but these are like long. This video is a lot longer than I intended it to be, and a lot of them were kind of like more silly questions, which is fine. I like the silly questions, but I don't really have a place for that in this video. But thank you to everyone who submitted questions, whether or not they ended up in the video. I really appreciate the engagement and stuff. I hate doing the like and subscribe thing, but I'm trying to do it, so interact with this in some way if you want to, I guess. Thanks for watching, guys. Hada. I stare at the populace in prayer. I look at 'em talking to the